either anywhere, describing so as something called so the only time that I might recognize myself as Nigerian is if Nigeria makes it to the World Cup of soccer. And and then I'm back to the I'm supposed to have about like and you might yes. So I'm back to the story may or may not be about me. Okay, so so the story starts. First of all, if you really appreciate the story, you have to disconnect from your logic. Because most of the story doesn't make any logical sense. So the story is emotionally true, but logically not true. So the story is about a mythical place called Halifax. But it's mythical because this Halifax was mysteriously in Africa. Remember, you know what? So this mythical place called Halifax was in Africa. Back in the day, there were movements like this. It was a jungle. Who knows what the king of the jungle is? Excellent. So there was no mayor of Halifax. There was mayor of Halifax, and it was allowed. So once upon a time, there was this chicken that was migrating to Halifax. The chicken often says that he was single and looking to mingle. And for some reason, the other chickens were not feeling this particular chicken. So the chicken thought, I heard this mythical place called Halifax has no chickens. So if I go to Halifax, by default, I'll be the sexiest chicken in all. Right? This is part of logic, right? So it was just pure logic. So he moved to Halifax. Every full moon there was a party. Every full moon there was a party in Halifax. So the chicken went to the party and I can give you the condensed version because that usually takes 30 minutes, so it's 0. So the chicken shows up at the party, dances, teaches everybody the chicken dance, and then just like Halifax of today, it's 3 a.m. in the morning, chicken's trying to go home, tries to go to Metro Transit. So the chicken's wondering what to do, but talks to the king. The king has a massive palace, lots of spare room. The king says, hey, you can come, you can chill out, you can sleep here in the morning, you can have breakfast, and then after that, probably Metro Transit will be running, and you can take the bus home. The chicken says, no problem, he does that. So it's morning time. The chicken's having breakfast with the king, and the king looks at the chicken. I notice that the chicken is not as bubbly as the way it was. So the king said, what happened? And the chicken said, I'm still single. And the king said, why was you were single before you got here and you were happy? So why are you now still single like you were happy yesterday and you're not happy? Like, well, I was doing my chicken dance, and I noticed that all the other beautiful animals seem to be looking at your beautiful mane. You've got glowing names. And then I noticed the beautiful feathers on the peacock. And I noticed they were looking at the peacock. And then I noticed the leopard with the spots, with the muscles, and I'm just this one chicken. So he said, you know, I heard about this thing called cultural appropriation. So maybe I should ask a question. So he asked the king, can I get permission that the next time you're doing, I can take some of the name and stick it on myself. And I want to get an extra stuff for chicken. And the line said, we never had the chicken here before. But if you feel that that's what you need to do to represent the chicken, right there. But I have more questions. Like, can I get some spots from the leopard? Can I get the feathers from the peacock? And the king said, you need to go check this out for you. And if they say it's good, you do it. So we checked, all of the community said it was good. If any of you know any lawyers, talk to me after, because the chicken is looking for a lawyer. The reason why the chicken is looking, I hope it's not logical. The reason why the chicken is looking for a lawyer is because the chicken invented this special glue that he called chicken glue. The chicken was also a chemist. So the chicken went to the dollar store that we have and bought some super glue. And then when he did the chemical analysis, he realized that they had stolen his formula. So that's why the chicken is looking for a lawyer, because he wants to get his exactly what we got. That's nothing to do with the story line. But I'll bring that out there because he's emailing me and saying, do you know the lawyer in Halifax? Okay, back to the story. So the chicken decides next week, I'm gonna come back to the this chicken ever. By default, I'm doing chicken, don't call it chicken ever. I'm gonna look majestic like the king with the mane. I'm gonna have peacock feathers on. He said, you know what's gonna happen? The next morning, I'm not gonna be so happy. I will be smiling, but I'll be slightly confused. And the reason why I'm slightly confused is because I'll be trying to decide which of these women I want to marry me. Because I think that was what he thought was gonna happen. He was so confident. So the next phase for me. There's no logic. The party is in this compound. It's an open space. But mysteriously, even though it's raining everywhere in Halifax, only within that compound there's no rain. Everybody was jamming, having fun, enjoying the sunlight, and mysteriously, it's raining everywhere else. The chicken took some time to try to get this, all the different things on their body. And while they were there, because it rained so much, there was lots of mud in the water. And the chicken didn't get a perfect reflection of, when you go to muddy water, you try to look, it's not like a mirror, no. But the chicken was confident. There were a lot of things that the chicken might have been lacking, but confidence was not one of them. So he was confident that he was looking good. So he put all the stuff on for the different animals, destroyed the stuff he was finding. He knocked on the door. And then he knocked again. And so they opened up, they looked, and then slammed the door. And then they went back to parliament. What happened was back in the mythical city of Halifax, there were these beings called shapeshifters. And the shapeshifters were the notorious, what's the cool kids called today? Party people. Which basically means they just wreck the parties. So the king had said, make sure you do not let shapeshifters in because there is a really party. They jump on the cake, they just do all this. I don't know, they look back in the spirit of the Ubuntu, right? So when they looked at the chicken, with all that stuff stuck in it, they thought it was one of the shapeshifters. But the chicken had remembered that one was angry with the king had really trusted him and showed him the secret passageway that the king would use in an emergency to escape. So the chicken decided, what am I doing? I'm going to sneak into this special thing and I'll jump into the party. So the party's going on. Stop because the chicken would jump into the middle of the party and they thought it was a shapeshifter. So they pick up this, what they thought was a shapeshifter, they throw this thing outside the door. It's a chicken door, they don't fly to the street, they throw the street, they toss the body. Okay? So you got to the other side, you have the chicken to come. but it's raining. And this was the first formula of the chicken meal. It's not as good as the super meal today. Chicken is going to multiply in values. But at that time, it was the first iteration. So it didn't work that way. So as the rain started pouring down, they started slowly washing off the stuff. The king said, you know what? You need to pay attention because everybody's here except the chicken. So look up. So they keep looking like, oh, it's a shapeshifter. They'll come back in a few minutes. So they come back and look again. The chicken tries one more time and knocks it again. Knocks it again. They let the chicken in because at this time, all the stuff had washed up. They bring the chicken in, they dry the chicken off, chicken parties. So then it's 3 a.m. in the morning. It's like presently Halifax, no metro traffic. So the king said, yeah, you can crash at my house again. He crashes out the house. Next morning they're having breakfast. And the chicken has the same look they had after the third party. So the king said, let me guess, the upset pig is still singing. And he said, yes, how did you know? But I wanted to see you last month. It's the genius to figure this out. So then the king, let's have a question. Why did you want to name? Why did you want to keep calling feminists? Why did you want to? Nothing's wrong. And the king said, and chicken said, I just wanted people to love me. So at this point, the king gives advice to the chicken. This is where we have audience participation. It's also almost the end of this. So, what advice would you give the chicken at this point? I'm not looking at you, but look at me. Anyway, who's got some advice? If you want to, I don't want to pull you out and put your hand up if you want to give some advice to the chicken. You yourself? Anybody got more advice to the chicken?
Love yourself first.
Love yourself first. So basically, what both of you said was what the king said to the chicken. The king said to the chicken, you know, those who truly love you will love you for who you are. You don't have to try to pretend to be somebody else to be yourself. And that's the thing, to be yourself.
But if you're in the box, might be you. Yeah, all right, oh, there's only one small beginning. The English come out again to people, I love that, and faculty, we have the opportunity, the faculty education that university, and the vice chair is located here in Scotia, which is part of the body, the unceded and ancestral territory that we become. It remains the home land of Native people. The territory is held by a covenant of peace and friendship treaties, and they were signed between 1725 and 1779. And these treaties are affirmed by the Supreme Court of Canada that recognizes Aboriginal title. These are living agreements that establish the rules for ongoing treaty relations between the nations. And so I would like to acknowledge paying respect to the knowledge that's embedded here in the body and by the custodians of the land and the waters, and the elders past, present, and future. And me personally, I strive to draw wisdom and learn from the wisdom of First Nation lineage and also the Native traditions. And I see a land development as an opportunity to think deeply about what this means for me as a first generation settler here. I acknowledge that colonialism exists, and I need to consider my participation in that current process. I would also invite Jacqueline, who is a grad student at Mount State University, to continue the demonstrations.
I acknowledge the mud as the original stewards of the land and the historical and ongoing impacts of colonization and the statements of both indigenous people and African nations. I also recognize the contributions of African nations and distinct people with history and legacy in the region for 100 years. I would like to acknowledge that not all people came to these lands as migrants and settlers. Specifically, I wish to acknowledge those of us who immigrated evolution, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic trade and slavery. In support of my efforts to confront and supply racism, I take tribute to those ancestors and that's how I would understand.
I love to sing the very voice and sing. And so I invite those of you to stand. So we're going to sing along with the video.
And I'll rejoice. And every sound that song, oh, the faith that the dark past has all time. Let's march on till victory. It's one. Let's march on till victory. It's one. Let's march on till
Okay, that's incredible. So you have on your chair, please keep the pen. And then also we have this little bookmark, which tells you a little bit about Blackwood. And back to the definition of Ubuntu. So any one of those things, but also you have with you a card. And we'd like you to consider setting some intentions for each of you. often we come together, we are looking to gather knowledge, meaning, but also because you're here as a collective, I'm sure you can also make a contribution to this space. So this card is for you to keep, you don't need to share it. But there is an opportunity for one to give it to us as you proceed. So the front is setting intentions, so we might consider what kind of conversations or themes that you want to engage with tonight. And given that the title of this evening is centering Ubuntu Pedagogy for Systemic Change, perhaps your intention is to be curious about what does it mean to have systemic change with the intention to be. I want to get an active listener, or I want to know more about Ubuntu. I mean, you can certainly come up with your own intentions. And then also to consider what experiences you are bringing that you could share. And that could be your own experiences, your, you know, as an educator, or as a parent, or as a neighbor, or a community member. And then we want to jot down something in that space as well. There is a backside, which we're not going to look at the moment, because I said it's already. So we just taking a few moments to set your attention to this evening. And jotting that down in the time that you need to do that, and we can do it as we move forward, because at this moment, I'm thinking about two speakers to these, lovely chairs up here. And we have Senator Dr. Wanda Thomas Bernard, and please come up and be so comfortable here with Dr. Wanda. We have our guest, Dr. Alecia Blackwood. We're excited to be able to transition, and I'm going to have a microphone over, and they're going to lead you speak. So, speak on our house. So, telling you all the woman on the side, that's what you do. Thank you so much, Dr. Brigham. And I want to say, welcome to all of you. It's wonderful to see the space filled. I have to admit, when I first came in, I saw so many chairs with really and the conversations very interesting to listen in on some conversations. Something like it would be really comfortable. With the human, one of the comments about it, the child is expressing. I won't take a long time giving bio and when my grandson was something told me to walk me out online. And so this lost. I'll just say this. Social a good social 50 years. And social media is really like for them that who still does the chicken still loves to teach. That's the challenge. And I love to I love to read. 2 years of it. I put please. What I was invited to be a part of this conversation this evening. I was really, to say this. Let me tell you what, I thought you didn't have to make it. Given this not family issues, I'll just put it possible. I have a perfume of it. My reason. Continue to be I feel very blessed and honored to be able to leave different parts of my life into the world that I'm having. And through the conversation with people that we talked about, that we will start
has been popular. And we will close around those things. So I'm going to invite you to take your mind. I think we have a separate. Yes. Or you use the same. Oh. I have two mics. So you can introduce yourself. How are the audience going to see?
Thank you so much, thank you, Brown. It is truly a pleasure, to be here. It is my second time in Halifax, in 2022. It was a very short trip, about 4 days on the ground, and I was back to the US. And so this time I'm here as a visiting scholar at Academy University. Thank you to, Dr. Alecia and Dr. Lynn. And also, thank you for that opportunity to be able to share this work. And just the collaboration with you. Thank you so much for the investment, the work that you do in this community. And so, I'm a child of descendant of Jamaican Maroon. And so, it was something that my great grandfather told me when I was young, and I held on to that. And so I was born in Jamaica, I was in New York City, lived in New York City for 25 years and 17 years in Wanda. The last 3 years in Thornfield, Virginia. So that is a part of my journey. I'm currently an assistant professor at Blackwood University. I'm also a mom. I've raised 6 children. Yes, there are 6 children and 5 children. That's about the story. But I see myself as a servant leader, doing this work in and out of community. And I also serve as the executive director of African Culture School for 16 years at the Saturday School in Humboldt, where we teach students to study abroad in Ethiopian Ghana. And so that's a part of the extended work in community that I do. And I just absolutely love teaching. I love children, I love serving our community, and even though I'm a professor in the last 6 years, I make it my duty to go out in the community and really collaborate with someone with the work that is happening in the community. I love the way we do it. It's so appealing. And even here we have the mother of 6 children. Repeatedly PhD while raising. People use the term warrior, scholar, and if you were speaking about, I think maybe a sense of why they call her a warrior scholar. But I'd like you to tell us why people call you a warrior scholar. Now, what does that mean? How did we get such an awesome name? So, that started with an elder referring to me as a warrior scholar. So when I mentioned African Culture School, I noticed that I was a public school teacher and culture was not being taught in schools. And so I decided to open up my home and teach children on Saturday, 2 hours. It started with my 6, plus an addition. I had 50 children. Then with the 30 children on Saturday, they minded in the road. Not my tool, when you sometimes people to extend the classroom. And I also connected with community members to volunteers working in the school, on the Saturday school. And so that started the work that I was doing in the community. I just absolutely love to read and always, studying African culture and history and sharing it with others and writing about it. And so, an elder, when he was taking my picture, he said, oh, or Miss Tyler. I love it, and it sounds like it's still doing that. So tell us why it's so important to you that you get these connected community. Tell us your connected community. Obviously, the council, I think, as a university. And as a life research, scholar, how does the community the community? Why is that happen? I think it was all the way back to my early years as a first family grandmother. So my mom was she lived in the States, and my grandmother raised me from 3 years old. I was raised with my grandmother, and my grandmother was the community leader. She had a third grade education, but she was intentional about supporting the elders in the community and teaching them how to read. And so that was my first example. I remember in Jamaica we have the people, the Tainos. They would come from the region and they would, my grandmother would go in little fancy books, like tattered books, and they would borrow the books. And so that was my first example of community. And growing up in New York City, I saw examples of community with my family. Going to school in Harvard, there was another extension of community. And so when I was in graduate school, I had to write a grad statement, and I said, my work, what I would do with my doctoral degree is to serve my community. And so my community is extended globally because I do a lot of traveling internationally to collaborate and serve others in the community. Wonderful, thank you. I love the title of this one. I'm going through pedagogy. Becoming and looking responsive. So, what's a bit about that? And I don't usually the questions I sent to that's where they found you know, and story solid. Yes. How did you become that completely responsive educator? Okay, so my journey with Ubuntu started in early 2000. I was a public school teacher. At this time I was in the state of Florida, first time teaching, and within about my 4th year of teaching, a professor in research and study in South Africa, into observing and teaching, and left the note on my desk, and teach in the spirit of the Ubuntu. Absolutely no one of the And so I went on a journey. I wanted to know what did you see? What were the pedagogical moves I was making in the class? I would say that you teach in the spirit of the Ubuntu. So I did a self-study. I also requested for the principal to transfer me with the same group of students to the experiment. And so I studied students. I decided to go to grad school. So because now I'm interested in learning to research. I completed my master's and still wanted to learn more about Ubuntu. I applied to be a U.S. Fulbright scholar and had an opportunity to go to Wanda, and South Africa to study more about Ubuntu. And I also told my doctoral chair that I'm going to do my lecture in Ubuntu. It was crazy. But I was able to successfully defend that work. And so Ubuntu and the holistic approach to teaching and learning, that is how I operationalize it. It's Ubuntu Pedagogy. It's a humanistic approach to teaching and learning. When we talk about the Ubuntu, that I am because we are the values of empathy, care, compassion, interconnection is all within. But I recognize that was experiencing Ubuntu on my own. We didn't call it Ubuntu, but that was Ubuntu. And so I would say Ubuntu was beginning. And it manifests out in learning for that professor to be able to see it.
Well, I have to take a moment. Because when I purchased the one, we were able to go to conference, I said that's everything. But a couple of years ago, I decided to get two copies, one for myself. Our daughter's homeschooling, very good people, and, so I purchased a copy for stuff. And when she read that, she said, John, this is what I'm doing with the world. That I'm very happy, I wasn't calling him. And I have to take a file grandma over. I hope no one minds me doing this, but if you're here next week, then the awards,
It's down.
It's our African Nova Scotian History Challenge.
Yeah.
Good job. African Nova Scotian History Challenge is that GDP it has been doing now for what, 8 years?
Yeah.
8 years.
19 years.
19 years. What else would you?
19.
Yeah.
We're doing it for 19 years. So one of the assignments that my daughter has a ton for in these things. He had been doing an assignment, we didn't discuss the neighborhood, we live in multi-generational. And that grandmother. So she had been doing some work on the Preston Township, so that we had a mark on to visit. Because the Preston are the largest, so we just have some. So he had to do a project on historical facts, places in the Preston Township, and then they decided to turn it into one of their history channels. They named one first place. They don't finish things. And I was just so excited for them. They're very great. 8 and 10, but they came in first place in the high school, and they had to meet. It's a bingo. But it's a bingo is teaching. And I was really thinking of all kinds of things they can do, and all things that will be business is gathering. They can create news that they could do something more with this bingo. But it's really grounded in wisdom. Teaching. So teaching those values, that even things things. And I find that a lot of times young people do they don't what's happening is they're doing this. There's a lot of destruction. Self-destruction, there's a community destruction, there's a lot of destruction within, within our communities. There's a lot of hate, and people are turning their hate on themselves and on their friends and on their others. I believe that the education was made grounded in wisdom. Teachings, maybe we see us.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that beautiful story. Because when I think about African culture school and the children that were served in the community, these are children that go to school. Those are children that go to public school from pre-K all the way to high school. So that's the range that of students that we come into a class. Parents were begging me to take a 4-year-old and to find someone to work with the littles. But yes, and so some of the things that we do in African culture school, this is Ubuntu in action. We were very intentional about teaching them what it looks like, what it sounds like in the community. We didn't have an opportunity to learn about an African ancestor. The when I say African ancestor, that's someone that's made a significant contribution to the world. And so they get to study, they study about Marxology, they study about just something culture, they study about Alecia, they study about Martin Luther King, and we want them to have make these connections to their community. So you can give them exams and stuff at school, and use it as a performance. They have to create a project. And project-based learning, and they have to showcase that at the end of the year. So they go from January all the way to December, and then they showcase their learning to the community. So when we talk about educating our children, we cannot expect them to do what they don't know, what it looks like. They have to model it, and we have to teach it to them. And so that was some of the things that we were doing in school to make sure that the students understand what it means to be in the community. And we also explicitly teach the 7 principles of longitude, and to have that deeper understanding of the English society and what it looks like. Because with the English society, some of the principles are reflecting on self, and then some of the principles are about community.
And that connection in self and community is so important. In fact, it can be transformative. Many scholars write about the transformative power of religion. So when you reflect on your work, can you give us some other examples of the transformative power of religion? Like the witness, what is another topic that we
I think I would say that, the first one was the transformative approach of Ubuntu. The work that I started with the Saturday school, I was in Orlando at the time, and the city of Orlando started learning about the stuff that we were doing. In the creating a nonprofit about that. And so they've extended models of that program in the schools. They have the institute, they're educating the parents and educating parents and in the community. And then we also have community members who participate and educate the parents as well. And Thursday, they were from cradle to college. And so they were intentionally supporting the parents as well. And the beauty of it is that we were community building, and the elders in the community will share. You're seeing Ubuntu in action. And then we have graduation for those fathers who completed the 6-week programs with their children. And then we share our resources, and the parent left a book to read, an African centered book to read to their children. So that was one thing that I wanted. I was also a public school teacher at the time, and the public schools and teaching at our schools of students. It's not just Black students are in my class. And so the principal would see the things that I'm doing in my class. My classroom became the model classroom in the school districts. So I had other teachers or principals, superintendent, deans, they will come to receive the work that I'm doing in the classroom. And then the school started to adapt the Ubuntu principles. So when you start walking, this is public school, you walk into all the way and you're seeing the principles up. And we were intentional with the work that they're doing. The students are doing affirmations and rituals. These are evidence of Ubuntu in action. The other part of it that I see that is transformative is now we're from the classroom. And so now I'm an instructional coach, and I'm working with teachers, and we are studying Ubuntu. And I was reading, I happened to do a book study with a book from Dr. Ifo Ikede. We can teach if you don't know or hear about us. That is another the book I cited in my work too. And so I took the teachers to a book study. And this is where I see the transformation that is happening. And transformation is not a one and done. It's not an easy process. It's an ongoing work. This is what it's called this time. You have to first understand who you are. And then you have to go about building relationships with your students know how to unify the class to work together and nurture your minds and intellect and teach you a position of love and care. And then ultimately, we are using the data. It's also the data, it's not just the data from one and then reading, but we're looking at the data for social, emotional as well. And those are the things that used to drive our instructions. So,
Probably came off purpose of the word,
okay.
but the two words. So it was. One is being intentional and this second part of this. So I want to talk, basically talk about why it's important to be intentional. And yeah, so we'll start with that. I need to be around. I'll say it over.
So, being intentional with the work that you're doing. One of the things that is essential in my teachers, when we're talking about culture and culturally responsive teaching, it's not about declarations, it's about cognition. And so, when we do the things that we're doing in the classroom, we're showing representing because we see their culture represented in the curriculum, and we're utilizing the curriculum when we intentional. When we are showing the students love and creating a sense of belonging and care, when we intentional. When we're having the students do affirmations, one of the things that I have my students do every morning in my class, if you have no confidence in self, you are forced to be in the university with confidence. You are one, even before you started. Those are words by Marcus Garvey. And our students chat those words every morning before we start teaching about mountaineering, and we set the tone of the day before we dive into the content. And so that is ways of being intentional, not being performative when I'm doing the work.
And that's that. I love that.
Yes.
We can't teach people about this. So put on moving that. So the other word designated things. It's having a consideration of very confident. I assume it's and so we could give us a few numbers, but I wonder if you could say that more about how it went through and how much Spanish will be systems. But that's frankly, my experience but I would not really well. I recently there was this week some conversation on CDC that recently all of the work that's really done to increase more teachers. Program funding and involved with the universities to make will be the curriculum. But I think information, I think the communication. Words, which was exceptionally teachers, we need to inspire them. How do you keep them in a system that is learning? And I think when you talk about system and information, kind of strong for I don't believe you. But I create conditions for people to be able to do it. We do the kind of innovation. So how do we get to that systemic change?
So that is not an easy answer, it's because we know that birth is complex and is multidimensional, and we are taking through the lens of organizational theory and making sure that those that are being policy understand this type of work. We want to use it's not just throwing money with this complex problems. We know from research that doesn't work, that level of investment to making sure that individuals are feeling supported this idea of making sure that we are starting from a place of shared humanity. And there's a lot of work needs to be done throughout this as well. And so those of us that are in leadership and sitting at tables of decision making, we have to do a self-work. And we have to show in those spaces with our authentic voice. And so before we can get there, we have to do that collective work and collective healing. It's because we're coming from a place of lots of trauma. And a lot of times when we show up to do this work, we're getting emotional and reactionary instead of being intentional. And so that education and preparation behind the scene will go up into the spaces to speak to leadership and to making sure that we are sharing things that we know that are working and helping them to create programs that are sustainable and making sure that they're hearing the voices of the community, not just designing programs, but not taking the voices of the community, the elders, those who are being impacted by the injustice, to be able to share and be a part of that. I'm also a peace and justice training facilitator. I was trained, especially around the time the Trayvon Martin incident in the US. And so these are complex conversations. So we have opportunities where you have descendants of the Ku Klux Klans and African Americans in one space and facilitating those different conversations. And so leading those type of work, it starts with individuals so we can be able to guide that work and support leadership and policy that are leading to support that change. And it's not a one done, it's an ongoing thing. And I believe that purpose. And I will kind of make sure that it went down and multi-language. It was sleeping. It was sleeping. Like the multi-language. I don't know it. As a systems. By creating those space for that. We should be looking at there and God have known saying that we as community need to start the work. We need to do the work that we can to support the pockets of those that we can support. And as we continue to advocate for the larger system, because we cannot just sit down and wait for the policy to change. The boots on the ground and the ones that are doing the work, because those of our ancestors on the shores, as I can say, they were doing the work. All right, now they were doing the work, and so we have to make sure that we continue to do the work. And sometimes we address the work like we're beggars. We're not beggars. We're not beggars. We're demanding what we need. And so while we're doing that, we're showcasing our black excellence. We're showcasing our joy and helping our children to see that while we continue to do the work. You know, many of us are doing the work. You haven't seen the change that you envision. You haven't seen the change of the ancestors. And I'm talking about when you say that community members, community leaders, elders, parents, but some people are struggling just to get through. So how do you integrate in a situation where there's so much struggle in the world, there's so much struggle, but yet we have this duty and responsibility to give back to our communities because when you're educated, you have responsibility to do that. We need to fix. We basically need to build this in common.
But it's different. So how do you navigate the spaces?
Yes, speaking for the collective with the data that I could share myself, because I've been doing that work. And we do have a list of duty and responsibility. And I stay strong to that duty and responsibility because I always spoke up to my ancestors and there's something that happened in culture schools that we will never dishonor our ancestors unless it's not a village. So the work, those of you who pay attention, what's going across the water, it is a lot. And so one of the strategies that I researched still, I call it my Eva strategy. So as an Eva, a story, and in this part, I come down to do some of the work on the ground, and I go back on the part and I rest, and I develop the strategies, and I go back down. It's still in the ground all day long, just collaborating, working, and not taking time to self. I also is on myself and I'm not able to give the best. So I use my Eva strategies to guide me, strengthen up myself, and I come back there.
You're so simple and there's so many ways. Wow. Because I just want to agree with I've become more intentional with myself. I would say that I'm really there's something popular and stuff feeling. And so that I wouldn't get these hard accomplishments, but so be it, I have these hard accomplishments. But I'm intentional about something, and a young man is to be a wonderful company. Holding it hopefully good. He said, I look pretty healthy. I look pretty healthy. That's a compliment for someone who that's a compliment. And I used to go and say, we don't burn out. We recycle. We can't afford to burn out because it's what we do. At the end of the day, the burn out healthy as well, and we don't. So it was being intentional with something. Being intentional about us. Being intentional about giving the grace we need. That's what I use. Yes. That's what I So you're hearing this here from the two of us. You may be on to something. Maybe jot down here. That's yes, yes. That's what's in the other beyond. That's what we just say. And you would be one of my students being there. I thought there was a lesson here.
The other book I would recommend is the Book of Joy by Archbishop Desmond Tutu about and there are some intentional mindfulness in the back of the book and things to do as well. The Book of Joy.
Oh, I saw Smoky Dolphins. Now, I don't know if anyone else here is a Smoky Dolphins fan, all this stuff like that. And he's making something. He does yoga. Yeah. When I heard him interview and talking about doing yoga, I thought, I want to get the 8 effort and start doing yoga. And so I now do yoga every day. And guess what? I do it twice a day. Because in the morning and at the end of the evening.
I think yoga is here.
And so finally, I think we all need to find things and help us stay. But we need to recognize that we have a responsibility to do. Because to be honest with us, hurt people, hurt these, hurt teachers, hurt teachers. And so how do we do, again, how do we create education? How can we move to the office? Create healthier spaces for the learning that we know we want to
Ubuntu is an action. Ubuntu is an action. And so when we talk about Ubuntu, even though it comes from a collectivist culture, it is also made space for individual to work on self. The real broken and burnt out, we do not give back to community. So we take time for self. In the classroom, I have what we call the Ubuntu reflection corner. Now students go to that is a safe space in my class. It is a part of how they manage themselves in the classroom as well. So if they're not feeling, they're emotional, there's something is going on, they know that you can get up on your seat to the reflection on it because they're working on self, they will join the community. Because when students don't understand how to manage and regulate their emotions, and then I teach them this, so I don't just go with it for the corner of the time. I'm teaching explicitly about how to regulate sound. And so that I don't send them to the home, they go and there's stuff in the home to follow them to work on regulating themselves so that they can join that they do. Because if they're not, there's no learning stage in this. If they're emotional and they're in this place of freeze, or they're operating into the individual, the brain that gives you information. They're not ready for learning. So I create that space where they can work on self and people will join the community. I would love to see that. Okay. I would love to see that in the classroom. So in the school district I was working, they implement that in all the elementary classrooms. And then the middle schools, they have a version in the classroom as well. And that was something that started in the school district. My mom has had it in her high school classroom. Oh, beautiful. And then the funny thing about it, parents have reached out to me to help them to put it up in their homes. And so, because the children at the moment talk about it, and parents have reached out to me for it. And so, here again, we're seeing the transformation of the Ubuntu in action. I love that. Ubuntu in action. So, but that basically is no collective learning and learning classroom. How is that good? How do you see that differently? And how do you know that that's leadership in the classroom? The collective leadership in the classroom is the way that I structure the design of my classroom. I help them to activate the leader within. This is a classroom where my students are creating an academic safe environment where the students are learning from me and I'm learning from them. And so within that leadership dynamics in the classroom, there is, I think the day that Professor visited my classroom was a day when we saw that in action. I had a store in my classroom. There was a lot going on and teaching from that store. But the students were running that store in the classroom, where they're doing their math, the bankers, and the different stores that's in the class, and they're using their money that they gain from their self-discipline is rewarded, so they can take the money from where there was in an elementary classroom. So they use that money to operate in the classroom. So that was an example of the leadership. And what sort of things are they buying in the school? Oh, they're buying things such as books, they're buying chairs, they're buying things that children like. My mom was very instrumental in going to the church store and getting things before they did the store. So it was a big deal when the store is open every 2 weeks. And so that was an example of that. But in cultivating the leadership in the students, there's also books that I read to them. I also share proverbs that can utilize a lot of advocacy, and it gives me great joy to see the symbols around me because I teach the students explicitly what the symbols are. For example, I'm doing civil education is Nation, and the students will say to me, when I say, when I'm teaching and utilizing the instructional technique, and the students will say, when I say Nation is ready to learn, and also I utilize Pencastier, just self-correcting myself. Pencastier is I'm ready to learn. Nation says, when I'm here, I keep. When I'm here, I keep. So when we circle around how the structure of the leadership operate in the classroom, it's really into the way that I set up the classroom and the things that I'm teaching students that are figured from within, I provide the guidance. But before you can do something like that in class, you start it yourself as an educator to examine self and know what type of learners you have and what type of learners you want to develop. So that's the kind of way that I approach leadership. And that was just the elementary example. You have the upper levels and the college examples as well. And who's going to go to the higher education now? So I am a literacy professor and teach methods courses at the university and teach at a predominantly white university, the only black faculty in the College of Education. So my students that are in my class, the way that I set up the structure of my class and the design of my syllabus to the way that I open my class, university level. I'm very intentional about how we set the tone of the day before that into the content. So I have the learning principles of how we treat each other. So I start with the principle that they bring into themselves and work with them. I believe that the collaboration, knowledge, and talk. And so those certain principles that are coming from collaboration, farmers work, encourage to teach. Those are some of the principles that I think the way that I design my class is really going to mind. I don't have to go around and say, no, this is going to do. It's the way that I structure in the way that I operate in the class. And I'm very intentional about that. In showcasing that type of work or reading that research what I do. That's wonderful. So you're the Harrison Behaviors of the Netflix. If you believe that I was listening Harrison Behaviors, I was looking at another way that our movies have a lot of symbols. Yes. I think to start with that, I would say that I'm going into community first to learn about Ubuntu in the context of Nova Scotia and understand where I see examples of Ubuntu. Because context is important for you. I have the opportunity to be out in Africa where so much example is powerful. Evidence powerful. Ubuntu is evident in that community and it brings the small amount of things that I've learned so far. So I was looking for different examples of how I'm seeing Ubuntu instruction here in Nova Scotia. And so my design of my lectures and the work that I'm going to be doing with the teachers in collaboration with Dr. Kessler, and Dr. Martin. I was very intentional, not just coming as an outsider. Oh, this is what I'm going to do. I hear the collective voices, and then I'm designing my course in terms of how I'm doing it. Because I'm already seeing examples of the region and how to like wants to understand the mental pockets of their father. Because even when I started, and I just need to share this piece, when I went to the living room, and it was wrong, I wanted to see examples of the Ubuntu source with how, no, it's just a concept, they don't really teach it explicitly in any section of Botswana that explicitly teach it in the more curriculum. But I saw so many evidence and documented so many evidence of it all over the country. So those are like my way of operating, and then utilizing Ubuntu as a framework in how I operate. When we're doing things for transformation, you have to start with the framework. So Ubuntu is the framework the grounding of that do. So totally, that's been very, very inspiring and feel faculty and really like sorts and advocacy for years of time. What connections interesting with Nova Scotia, the advocacy and advocacy and I think the visitor happened. Because we go through the teaching, and we see the administration, we see similar things, somebody in the African. Yes, and it's one story, yes, and yes. I think the first one for all of the city, so when I'm in Southern Africa, they would greet you Salvador. It's not just like the morning, I see you. I see you. When I went into Africa, I went into the museum. That's how I felt. Sister Beatrice, she greeted me, and it's like, I see you. I welcome you. It's not that you have to know who I am and all my credentials. So just the common decency that I see you. And so that is one of the first example as I saw just, I see you. And that is something that is as simple as that is to get into action. Even simple in the morning. And acknowledging the person that is able to in action. That I see you, I validate and I confirm you in this space right now. I want to talk to you for that. It's not as what are some of those moments? What really stands for is a critical and now it's all people I'm saying on the lifelong learning is how to sort of help finish there. When I started teaching, my first year of teaching with the SOLA, I was demoted. I was removed from the classroom. They took my teaching salary and moved to another professional position for 6 weeks. There's a longer story to that. But I stayed learning, and what changed that trajectory? The new principal that came on board, we know that's been leadership, that was done, that was a legal move from that principal. So she got fired 6 weeks later, and I was reinstated. But the new principal sent me to a training in a culturally responsive classroom management training. And that training changed the trajectory of my teaching. It showed me that I was operating from a deficit mindset, and I wasn't seeing the asset the students were bringing to the class. And the principal that devoted me, she said, well, back then, you can know how to teach back kids. I didn't know there was something new. Didn't get that foundation in my teacher preparation program. I learned nothing about cultural responsive teaching in my teacher preparation program. So this was, it started, when I just went into teaching knowing all of this, it was an investment into starting, opening up my understanding about culturally responsive teaching. And then I continued to read books and attend seminars and continue my own personal learning. And I love learning. I know that not all books are like that. I get really excited and I love to learn and I love to grow and implement that and working with children and not seeing life turn on them and trying something new with that. So I continue to invest in self and growing and learning. And I encourage everyone to do it. Work on self, continue to grow, learn, and also be a researcher. And it doesn't matter if you're about AI, I encourage you to be AI literate, because that is going to change another way that is going to turn education upside down. So make sure that you are AI literate, and even for a community, this is impacting us in all areas of life. Yes, it is.
So number one, if you want to read this audience with one very impactful message, not to that, that would inspire us to want to become an individual for this country. What would that? So, when we talk about Ubuntu responsive education, at the intersection of both of those, quality and understanding of style. Take that time to explore yourself. I would also encourage those of you that are engaged in this work, make sure that you're taking that time for self-care so that you can also be the best version of yourself to go on about here and do this work. And as a result of living every voice and sing, we can keep marching on until victory is won. So we have a duty and responsibility not to give up. Our ancestors and passed the baton to us. We need to continue to do the work until it's our time to do the same. Thank you. So if you have something, wondering what stories you carry with you. And which of these stories might find available in the water. The stories the people that find the way into the teachings is the story that the people that have it that sense of community, that resilience, that persistence, that all of love. And the other story I believe will probably to my teacher and maybe my books next book is that there's not a single spirit, and we have to be cautious of those single stories, these single narratives. And so these are the things that I think about it gives me hope. It gives me joy to see the work that this people. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you for doing this work.
Because this example, this model, out of it, and showing up these spaces and sharing these type of work, every day, so this is really fantastic. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been absolutely. We have to honestly. And all of the company sitting there. These people work for you. But you could have learned. Please, that's with, Dr. Blackwood. Outstanding. Let's make this one of the choices. Yeah, thank you. I am and that we are on.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time and your sharing the stories and the experiences. Very appreciated. I would like to invite Damini. And Damini, if you want to introduce yourself, I understand I'm not the playback and super excited to have you join us this evening. So please come on up and down. Thank you. So I know Susie actually since I was 10, when I performed for the first time, at the airline girls conference that was in my secret. I am so grateful. I was in Korea from 2023 to 2021. I enjoy doing creative things, making art, painting, musical, things like that, all that stuff, singing. I'm in high school and I'm doing very well. So I'm going to be sharing a poem that is inspired by these conversations. I was asked to write about Ubuntu. I invite you to read it. Can you guys hear me? So that's okay. I also want to thank the speakers, Dr. Senator Wanda and Dr. Blackwood. At the beginning of my poem, I actually had a stanza that was actually talking about Salomona, but I was second guessing it, so I took it out when I was overthinking the poem to make sure that's right. But I just wanted to also mention that because when you said it, I was like, oh my gosh, wow! Oh, I should have kept it in. So here is my poem with Ubuntu is. Oh, also there's a part where I say Ubuntu is, and I'm going to look at you and look at you or anything like that. And if you want to use your familiar what Ubuntu is. One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. Ubuntu is the love for humanity that connects us all. Ubuntu is not just the skin you carry, but the soul behind your smile. It's the stories etched in the creases around your eyes, and generations within you, and the ancestors before you. Ubuntu is you. Ubuntu is I am because you are. No separation, no division. It is the essence of being human, a harmony rooted in the collective, in the sharing of space and the beauty of gentle reoccurrences. Ubuntu is
Read from the heart.
Ubuntu is the helping hand. That's the one that reaches out, that helps those who might fall through the cracks. Ubuntu is a collective heartbeat that reminds us to check for one another. Ubuntu is creating. Ubuntu is in your reflection, in the eyes before me. I see myself reflected, knowing that without you there is no I. Ubuntu is love. Ubuntu is vital. In a world that tries to make us forget interconnectedness, that strives to find division, pain, and hate. Rather than unity, healing, and love, we must allow Ubuntu to call us back into the arms of freedom. Ubuntu is Ubuntu is a love for humanity that connects us all. Ubuntu is not just the scheme and character, but the soul behind your smile. And the stories etched in the creases around your eyes, the generations within you and the ancestors before you. Ubuntu is.
Right.
Ubuntu is. Thank you so much. Every time, when I was coming here in the car, I was just thinking about this poem that I wrote. It kind of like connects that me with Ubuntu. It talks about unity of people, and I thought I'd share it. Are you guys down for this? Yes. Yeah. Okay. I often sing before my poems, but I couldn't think of a song before this one. So I'm gonna sing a song by the singer sang before it. You guys are familiar with it if you've seen it before. And it's Nova, and it is about a dove who is settled on the house as the sun rises. Oh, Jumatima, oh, Jumatima, mini, Ileo, oh, Jumatima, no, Ireo, oh, Jumatima, mini, Ileo, oh, Jumatima. Morire o, ada okay, wa balẹ̀ mi o, ojúmọ́ ti mọ́, morire o. There is unity in people gathered together in the village. In the way that the same group will never be in the same place at the same time, in the same way again. There is unity in the way that we change every day. No one is ever the same. We wake up the next morning and change. There is unity in land back, in the reclaiming, in the finding of what was lost, in the healing of the roots that caused pain. There is unity in struggle. In the way that hands clasped and shared, knowing there is unity in anti-war. In the yearning for peace and freedom, there's unity in grief. When you sit hand in hand with another that has lost a beloved, there is unity in heartbreak. In the way that we all feel it, there is unity in pain. In a way that it hurts so much you can't explain it, there is unity found in ecosystems. From spiders to bugs, moths, and bees, there is unity in what surrounds us. From light to birth to death to decomposition and darkness. There is unity in falling apart, piece by piece, like breaking glass. There is unity in joining together beautifully, gathered up like the stained glass. There is unity in both the end and the beginning, how they converge despite what comes in between. There is unity in nostalgia, in a collective way that we remember what was. There is unity in the way that we are all slowly dying. Everything around us, too, there is unity in sorrow, felt so deeply. There is unity in the light within us, shining radiantly. There is unity in the things that we tend to, like the flowers and the gardens and the people we care for. There is unity in love. There is unity in human connections and the shared smiles and knowing looks. There is unity in longing, the longing to change the world. No, we can only touch what we can reach, and even then, when the world ends, we can't save everything. There is unity in the quiet moments, in the whispers of the night. There is unity in the stories we share to show segments of ourselves. There is unity in the memories we make and the echoes they leave behind. There is unity in the future and the dreams we build upon. There is unity in every sunrise. In the hope that each one brings, there is unity in every breath. In the way that no inhale is ever the same. There is unity in all our imperfections, in the ways we try and fail. There is unity in the journey and the stories we live there. There is unity in a belief in God, the universe, or nothing at all. There is unity in the fragile moments. Moments you'd rather they not see. There is unity in our existence, in the shared pursuit of light and of life. Because of this unity, We must try and share with and care for one another. Fear each other. Feel for each other. And let compassion be our love. There is unity when people gather together in the room. In the way that the same group can never be in the same place at the same time, in the same way. Oh, Jumatima, me, you. Jumatima, no, you. Oh, Jumatima, me, yo. Oh, Jumatima, no, you. Hey, okay. Wow, but then, oh, no reason.
So I was sitting in front and the speaker caught my eyes. And it reminded me of high school. We had an image of the president as we go to school. And his eyes was always looking at you, no matter where you go. I just want to be good. And the principal would say, the president is watching you, not, and whatever it is. So I looked at this image and this woman was like, so I said that to draw our attention to the artists that performed throughout this and the stories that were told. You know, we started with came for the drum. Well, we got story on top of it. We gave the spoken word and we got a song on top of it. Right? So at the beginning you had this note card and you had your intentions to add to this. And so what we're asking you to do is to write what else we got from it. Right? So the backside, if you haven't had a chance to write yet, you shouldn't have. Now is a good chance to write. And I'm quite okay with you writing what I thought, because I also looked at the time, and I'm cognizant of the people, the fact that there were people who were here since like six. People that thought at the time they weren't here. Since about 8 o'clock this morning, the people were here setting up, and there were folks who were here way before that, working on getting this program together for us. If you've been here throughout the day, you know how beautiful this morning was. I want to thank you for being here throughout the day with us. But we do need to acknowledge that if they're still around, and I'm thankful for those who stuck around. There are some who left earlier. There was a team who worked tirelessly to put together this program for us. And I'd ask you to just give it a round of applause. But if you didn't know what I'm doing here, I think I'm doing the acknowledgement or something like that.
I'm talking after you.
But if you were here this morning, I got called up to do something, and I gave you half of my acknowledgement this morning, so you're not gonna get all of it tonight. But throughout the conversation, we had the two speakers, or the speaker and the interviewer, who shared their experience on Ubuntu. I'm sure many of you have heard the word before, heard the terms before, and you can connect with it. One of the things that I'm always reminded of, one of the things I'm taking away from this is that many of us have been doing Ubuntu before we got to know the word Ubuntu, before we got to know what it feels like, before we felt it, and before we even had the opportunity to say it to someone else. Right? So I want you to leave here with that same spirit and knowledge that you had prior to hearing these words. To understand what you learned here tonight from the speakers. You know, I'm taking away, and Dr. Thomas Bernard is not here, but I took away that she moved on from being a covering workaholic to actually doing something about it. I actually got that term from her some time ago, and I am stuck in that recovering workaholic phase, but she moved on to Europe. So, you know, I'm learning that burning ourselves out when there's a community around us to make things happen, right? Ubuntu, where we can rely on the strength of each other. We can look at someone and say, I am able because you are. I think it's Luparo who talks about his greetings in Zimbabwe, where someone asks, how are you today? And the answer is, I'm okay. That's how we stop in Canada. In Zimbabwe, only if you're okay. So if you're not feeling good, I'm not going to be feeling good until you feel good. So hurry up. And you know, the South African greetings, how on, where you meet someone and you greet them. Hey, I see you. I see you. Right? It's different from what I experienced when I came here. Someone says, hey, how was your day? And you're like, what a bad class. And before you said that, hold on. So the answer I learned is good. How was your day? Good. All right. So even if you're not good, you just say it. But so with this Ubuntu mindset and Ubuntu spirit, I hope that we will walk away from here knowing that we are beyond good. Right? We are beyond just seeing someone who is struggling and walking away from them. The Preston way of showing Ubuntu is making sure that they know that they see you. You go through throughout Nova Scotia, and when you go to Toronto, they're like, it's crazy, that person. Why are they waiting? Right? The Nova Scotian way is, hey, I see you. Without even saying it, I see you. So we have been doing Ubuntu for a long time. Don't believe it for all. Just go on with it. Friend, know what's going on. But, you know, we have been doing this, and, you know, we are taking away a lot from this space today. In all seriousness, I do see the work that was done, the fact that you're all in here and no one is nodding or saying and looking at their clock or so on. You want to learn, right? And it's not from a perspective of you had nothing when you came in. You also want to teach. I looked at the conversation and I heard some of the conversations that were being done in the hallways there, and you see and you hear people are sharing and learning from each other. So with all of that, I want to thank the BBLI for putting on this event. There are many others like this in the city. I'm not going to pretend as if the BBLI is at that level where no one else is doing anything like this. There are many others, right? We need to find these kinds of conversations, contribute, learn, each year, but sometimes just host our own events like these. Take away what we've learned here to our communities your spaces and help someone else to learn what you have. Ubuntu is, I've said several times, Ubuntu is such an awesome thing. Why haven't we're taking the way it's supposed to? I mean, not from a position where we just say and walk away, right? We spend time to understand what it really means as Dr. Blackwood is talking about what we've done in her class. Where we spend time to understand the people around you, more we spend time to understand who you are, so you can make a better contribution to the conversation and the community that you're from. Well, thank you all for coming out tonight and our call. So we have been spun over the vision more.
Appreciation for people's presence in this space and the energy that has been felt and the contributions that have been here all day. I hope that what has happened earlier in the day is still lingering in the space and please something kind of cleaning and helping you. So I want to signal that we would like to work of everybody here all together gathered. I want to clearly kind of try to say we're serious about the issue. Okay? Which means, don't be afraid to say to get in place, you have a smile, choose whatever angle you like, right? And have the elder help us with that. So I want to say that. But echo again, thank you, Dr. Casey, would you please stand up?
Yeah.
And come on, can I say you can sit there? And kind of really bring in the experience that you've really been a leader in helping us to create. So thank you very much for that. I know you'll acknowledge the team that's there, and so I recognize that with you. But I think what we've heard in conversations today, this is not kind of an either or. It's a multi-thing happening, and so your contribution to leadership here with the Alive, with Scotia, we're not in the shape. But I also think one more thing we want to do. So we have had multiple birthdays this month for folks in our staff and our staff team. So I want to acknowledge that we're not here to do something one day, right? But we have someone who that I heard tonight who has a birthday, who is an elder, connect, support, an individual who came to lots of our workshops and always engaged in work. Josie? Yes. And so that's the same as well. I feel like this karaoke might be doing that enough too. But I just want to say we want to find and we want to sing happy birthday. And I think it's important to never know what I like. You know, maybe in the last. So who's going to be that? The next start off and we're going to try to happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
I never heard you.
Thank you. I think that's given us all the time to be ready for the photo finish.
Well,
That's me, you know.
I'll be sure to.
I know we're not trying to. Sorry, I'm not trying How are
I whistle very loud. You wouldn't hear me. Thank you. Yes, okay, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Oh, here over here.
Stuff on the
Going on here. What I'm wondering and what I need is a group of individuals, volunteer individuals, feel dirty and safe enough to stand on a chair. Okay, I'm just gonna explain how it's gonna work. We're gonna have three rows of people. One row in the very back, standing on chairs like this. Side by side. Yep. If you're not tall, you're great. We can keep tall. Great, keep tall. Then go back in one.
Yeah, you want to stack a couple of these chairs and we're gonna move to that section. We're gonna go stand on.